hey, ha, hey, ya, hey, hoo, hey, hey, ha. Wusht goganech. Let it be that we heal each other. It is a hortative, what is called a hortative, which is a kind of commanding speech that in our old stories, a character such as Raven would speak, is how he would wish something so strongly into the world. And that is the style of this phrase, Wusht goganech, let it be that we healed each other.
The theme, Let It Be That We Heal Each Other, reflected on the ongoing collective healing of Alaska Native people, communities, and lands, waters, and animals at the First Alaskans Institute's 2023 Elders and Youth Conference.
There's one of the phrases the elders say is, Hayu Sane Hayu Hatangi. Our language healed us. I feel like, our languages are able to give us insights to our identity, our place in the world, and what it will take in order to be able to get us there. And that on the way, that acceptance of that love, that courage, and those wisdoms that are within our language will necessarily have its effect upon us. We interact with each other. And we'll find that that connection is unforgettable, and that we all have that thirst that's, I believe, been given to us by our Creator.
Hundreds of people from across Alaska gathered in Anchorage to learn from one another, take part in cultural workshops, and engage in meaningful dialogues with healing at the focal point.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I was actually living in Michigan at the time because my then husband, we're from Juneau, but we were living in Michigan so that he could go to school to become a doctor. And that's when I learned that our family was struggling with patterns of power and control. And so actually my parents, who were living in Occoquan in Juneau, brought me home to Juneau, and I call myself a refugee because my home wasn't safe and my parents brought me home. So I actually had my first support system from the Aware shelter in Juneau. So I went to support groups in Juneau, and I would drive to the beach at Auk, which is where our longhouses used to stay. And so as I learned about trying to recognize that domestic violence was a part of my family and try to heal that, I was able to do that for 6 weeks at home in my homeland with my parents and with a women's shelter that really helped teach me and help me start me on my journey to recovery. The experiences of domestic violence is a very big taboo, has a very large stigma. And so we don't feel that we can talk and share about it. And so that's why I speak about it, is because when I went to the Aware shelter in Juneau, and I had people teach me about the wheel of domestic violence, all the different parts of abuse, all the different parts of power and control, that it's not just physical, that it's emotional, verbal, psychological, financial, that even the legal struggle can become a part of those patterns of power and control. That really helped me understand my journey because, physical violence was just a very small experience, but the emotional, verbal, psychological abuse was the majority of it. And so I didn't recognize it as domestic violence until I talked to someone. And so then I find that when I'm in circles that I share that I'm a survivor and I tell a little bit of my story and my journey, then other people come to me and they tell me a little bit about their story and their journey, and then we can hold each other up.
Those working on healing efforts recognize the need to have open conversations about trauma and the impacts of colonization.
Every Alaska Native person has had some kind of experience with boarding schools, and most not so not so good.
Sam works on repatriation efforts, bringing the remains of boarding school students home.
There are 30,000 of our people still out there that want to come home. And for the last 5 years, I've been preparing for them. Cleaning graves, finding family plots, finding loved ones, lineal descendants, and letting them know where their loved ones are buried. And I have a laptop that I have of where people are passed away 150 years ago. So I trained myself to find bodies. And I trained myself to speak in public so that I could articulate myself in such a way that I could talk about this comfortably, because our people cannot talk about this stuff comfortably. There's taboos involved with it, cultural stuff, but somebody has to bring the body home. And I'm a guy that does this work. I've done it my whole life, and I'm comfortable with it. I've touched physical remains and brought them home. I've reinterred them back into the ground, so I have a history of that now. And now it's time to pass it down to the next generation, because the lineal descendants, they are the ones that have the ultimate authority. They are the ones that should be the ones to decide what to do with the body. And it's a very painful job. As I got older, ceremony has become the most important thing. Ceremony. When we bring back our ceremonies or develop a new one for return for a body, our whole spirit begins to change. We used to carry ourselves like a wounded warrior, but when we put our ceremony back into our body, we get energy, we get power, we get indigenous power, our back gets straight, our voice gets stronger. It's like our ancestors are coming into us. That's how we should be. And even if we talk like this, nobody should be intimidated by us because of our indigenous side. This is how we talk normally, not like this. Do you know what I mean? So to those of you who are to have that kind of power, Elders Youth, AFN, traditional Tlingit knowledge, it's going to lift us up. And it's all from our boarding school children who were out there and they are coming home. Our regalia, everything was taken away from us, just like them. So we put all our regalia on, all our tunics, our drum, and we're going to put it on to you too. We're going to heal together. And we're going to take our rightful place in society. And this country is going to love us. I think they love us already.
I think that learning about our history, and even though a lot of it has been horrific, and sometimes we might not think we even know the history, it's maybe not available to us, but learning about some of the boarding schools and some of the traumas that we did have is part of the healing, so that we can recognize what our family has gone through and what our parents or grandparents or our ancestors, what they've done, and how they've suffered, but also how we're moving forward today. So recognizing the past, I think we have to do that in order for us to know where we want to go in the future. So for me, I was, ashamed a lot growing up. I was never Native enough, or I was too much Native, but I didn't know a lot of the history, and I didn't know the stories of my people, or the songs, or the language, or even the personal stories of the boarding schools that my grandparents went to. But since then, I've learned some of those things, and I'm still learning. And it's been really helpful in really, I think, turning that shame or guilt into an understanding, and then eventually into love. Really, it's such a powerful way to heal when we learn about our history, and learn about who we are and our connection, and how beautiful we are as Indigenous people.
Part of the healing process is being honest about what's going on in tribal communities and self-reflection. That's one tribal leader's approach.
I have my own trauma, and I've made my own mistakes in my life, right? And I have enjoyed about a little over 20 years being clean. And I was addicted to methamphetamine. And I've had people tell me, you're the president of Clinton-Ida. You should not tell people that. You shouldn't talk about that. You could risk not getting reelected. And my answer is this every time: because I'm the president of Clinton-Ida, I should share that with people. People need to know recovery is possible. And one thing about me and how I got clean was accountability. And I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to take accountability for my mistakes, and I'm going to endeavor to do better today than I did yesterday. And that's become my mantra through life. And I think as a leader, you have to stand up and you have to reveal that self, that your vulnerabilities and where you've made mistakes, but you can also show that recovery is possible if you put in the work, that you can do better, you can be better, and guess what? You'll feel better. And so as a leader, when we talk about healing, I'm going to stand up and say these things. I'm going to stand up and say the things that scare me. It's really hard to pull these things out of the dark and put them in the light. But I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm going to hold others accountable. Healing's a journey. And it's like any journey, it's usually better walked with others. And I want to be the person to walk with people and support them and make sure that they have what they need to walk that journey successfully.
The healing journey for some includes embracing the land, plants, and food medicine.
Food and our plants can feed us, but emotionally, spiritually, and in all of those ways. And so getting out on the land, I think, is it's like a ceremony. And so any ways that we can teach our children, and even people my age have never gone out and gotten certain plants or harvested, or just being out there together, I think is wonderful. With like exercise, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things come to play. And the power of our plants, the cedar, the red cedar is, we use this for everything in Ketchikan, for our longhouses, our basketry, our medicine, our totem poles, our canoes, and much more. And of course, the teaching around this plant is generosity and kindness. And you could see, because cedar's been so generous to us. And I think wherever it grows, it's used in a special way, wherever you find cedar. And so I think the plants themselves teach us. So getting out on the land, each of the plants have their gifts to share with us too, if we listen.
Finding solutions and healing communities often starts with grassroots movements and young people.
There are so many levels of governance, and especially as Native people, we're citizens of our own tribes, and And for us, it's really important we 100% believe in tribal sovereignty, and our community members make up who our tribe is, right? And our community elects our tribal leaders. Our community members are a critical part of shaping our community. And we believe that the people closest to the issue or closest to the problem, they're also the closest to the solutions. They know what's going to work in their community. And so that's why we really hold at the foundation following the direction of local community members and supporting them in creating the solutions that they see and supporting them in the advocacy. And we try to amplify that. We try to build relationships of support and connection.
All of the things that we work on are going to be passed down to them, right? We also know that we're not going to solve it in our lifetimes, so we have to be, readying the next generation of people who are going to do this work and preparing them for what it looks like to do this work. And so I think that's one of the reasons that it's so important to us, but also the power of intergenerational interaction. We also make sure we all have elders in our spaces, because we know as Native people that it's so important for us to be having that intergenerational communication of values and knowledge.
In Anchorage, I'm Antonia Gonzales.
Black, blue, or white. If anyone wants to make
This story is supported by the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing a transformative approach to justice that is community-led, restorative, and racially just. Learn more at publicwelfare.org.